Previously on Can You Beat Paralogue 3 Houses on Maddening mode with only Sylvain. New game plus is allowed. I mean, this is Maddening mode. It's already hard enough with a full army with a single unit. We need to unlock those skill levels. Only Sylvain can enter combat with enemy units. Green ally units are obviously exempt from this rule. They'll do whatever the AI wants them to. I will allow the use of dancers for maps where they can be deployed. For healing, I will get the full use of one healing item per map. For maps where victory conditions depend on the survival of green ally units, I'll allow one other character other than Sylvain to use healing skills on those units. DLC items will be allowed. Yes, this run is pay to win. After all that excitement, dealing with Manuela is very simple since she's a static unit and slow, so Sylvain just double cert and deals with her in one turn to close out the battle. As usual, Swift Strike saves the day when Sylvain can't double the enemies naturally. The Lanata kill is kinda exciting because Sylvain gets his first crit of the run, finally, on a 2% chance even. Thankfully, the boss for the battle is light work compared to the Death Knight, so we're able to deal with him in one turn with just one turn left. Starting chapter 5, we get Dimitri's B support combo, unlock the sauna so we get Sylvain straight in there for those instruction bonus points, and finally unlock the blacksmith to get some upgraded weapons. During this chapter, Sylvain gets to level 15, so here's the average Sylvain comparison for this level. Other than his speed and resistance, there's nothing too groundbreaking about our Sylvain's stats for this run, but having higher speed and magical defenses than normal is obviously great for a solo run. So the mission for this chapter is actually dealing with Sylvain's own older brother, Myclon, who's the leader of a bandit group that stole their family's hero's relic. What's scary about this battle is what happens after you kill Sylvain's crap of a brother, though. He turns into a monster the first time we encounter this type of enemy in the story. Dealing with just one monster isn't a big deal if you have access to multiple units. You can usually use 2 gambits to fully break the barrier and deal a lot of damage to the enemy with other characters once the barrier is down. But with just one unit, if the monster starts with a fully healthy barrier like Myclon does, it's impossible to fully break it with a single gambit, so the barrier just keeps recharging every turn. While we do get through this map, it takes a little while, so let's just get right into it. It actually took me 2 tries to complete this battle. The footage I'll be showing is the successful run since also showing the previous failed run would take too long. I disabled the combat animations and skipped the enemy phases because there's a ton of enemies to get through in the first part of the battle, and I wanted to get to Myclon as fast as possible after a failed run. Dealing with the enemies on the path to Myclon is really simple, especially with Life Taker to heal back up after every enemy killed. While there are reinforcements on turn 2 that come in from where we started the map, it's pretty simple to slowly deal with them in the little hallway leading to the room where the chest is. We just leave Byleth in there and have Sylvain block the entrance. After that's done, we can keep on going without worrying about any other enemy reinforcements that could come after Byleth. We ignore the Armored Knight that drops the accuracy ring since it's a useless item for this run, and just continue on through the other path. At this point we get really close to Myclon. It's kind of funny because a ton of the enemies here drop healing items, which I guess is Insys telling us to get prepared for a real dicey boss battle. We're able to deal with Myclon in one turn with a Bolt Axe and Elm Splitter, so we quickly unlock the actual boss of the map. This phase of the map brings all the deployed units to Myclon regardless of where they are in the map, so we have to move Byleth out of range before throwing Sylvain in there. I also turned the battle animations back on since we're finally back to the part of the battle that really matters. So I get Sylvain to draw out the archers first so we can get rid of them and their annoying poison strike from the get-go. After the archers are done, the monster ends up close to the defensive tile, so I get Sylvain straight there for extra protection during combat. I slowly whittle down the monster's first health bar with Sylvain's fire, which takes several turns since his magic stat is really nothing to write home about right now. We get a lot of lucky avoids, so it's pretty much smooth sailing for this part. Eventually we get to the second health bar, and I notice that I get Myclon low enough to finish that health bar with Swift Strikes, which is a terrible idea that I end up going through. I unlock the third and final health bar, but Sylvain is now at less than half of his health, so I undo that stupid decision with Divine Pulse and continue whittling down the second health bar from the defensive tile. Eventually, we get to the final health bar with Sylvain pretty healthy, and the strategy really doesn't change from the past 2 health bars. We just continue slightly poking the monster each turn while hoping Sylvain dodges most of the attacks. It's really anticlimactic, but that's how we finally kill it. It just took 56 turns of tickling the monster with Sylvain's amazing talent in magic and some upgraded javelins. As we go into chapter 6, I take the time to contemplate that So far, I've actually been avoiding using silver weapons. With Max Professor level unlocked, silver weapons were always available for purchase at the armory or through offerings in the pagan altar in the abyss, but I felt like it was cheap to use such powerful weapons so early on. I've also been avoiding using gambits. The first time I even used a gambit this run was actually on Monster My Clone last chapter, and even though all the battalions we get in previous files carry over from New Game Plus, I wasn't even using the best one I could for the same reason as the silver weapons. As we've all seen now, it was extremely tedious just tickling the monster's HP down turn by turn, and I felt like if I continued this way, I'd go crazy before I even made it to the final chapter for the Academy phase. So for Chapter 6, I made sure to stock up on silver weapons and let myself use gambits if I had to. For exploration updates, I finally unlocked the Seed and Tea Leaf merchants. I could have unlocked them in the last chapter, but I ended up not doing any battles until the very last free day before the chapter mission last month, so they ended up only being available this month. Anyway, the key takeaway from unlocking these merchants is that I can start more reliably gardening for stat boosters and increasing Sylvain's charm through tea parties. So I plant some purple flower seeds to hopefully get the strength boosting item next time I do gardening, have some tea with Sylvain to make him more charming even though he's already perfect, and get his sea support with a net. Then we get our first Paralogue of the run. In Chapter 6, we unlock Dedue's Paralogue, and I decide to do it right away even though Dedue doesn't have access to a flying class yet. I thought I'd just try to do it now because as the months go by, there will be more and more Paralogues unlocked, and I didn't want there to be a backlog of them since they're time sensitive. For this battle, we just have to kill the enemy boss before the Kingdom Army within 15 turns. We do get rewards based on how many Dusker soldiers we force to retreat in comparison to how many the Kingdom Army kills, but there's really nothing much we can do with a single unit. It's pretty straightforward, but it's a little hard for Sylvain to make his way toward the boss because he's still not high enough level to get Wyvern Rider certification. We just have to make him get down there as fast as possible because those turns rack up pretty fast when you only have one unit to cut a path to the boss. It's not too much trouble though because when we do get to the boss, we bypass his high avoid in the forest by going for a gambit to debuff him for the next turn, and just kill him in enemy phase when he attacks Sylvain. After that, the only thing of note before this month's mission is Ash's B support, where Ash just spits straight facts about Sylvain, but we can't have perfect hot guys without their flaws, so we get this. Anyway, moving on to the battle, this is the second time the Death Knight appears. I was actually really scared because he gave us such a hard time last time, but with better weapons and gambits at our disposal, I figured we'd be okay. Right from the get-go, I get Sylvain and Byleth to teleport to the halls to the right. Since this is a turn-limited map, we needed to move as fast as possible. While Sylvain dealt with all the enemies, I would use Byleth to do everything else, like turn on the warp tiles, open all the chests, and lastly, open the locked door leading to the Death Knight's room. I have to use a few divine pulses because I get some of the warp tiles confused, but it's okay since I didn't need to use the pulses for anything else. Other than the Death Knight boss, there wasn't anything to really worry about in this map. I was honestly really worried about the Death Knight since it was such a pain in Chapter 4. We were also running out of turns, so my anxiety levels were through the roof. All that worry was unnecessary though, because once I got Byleth to safely unlock the door to the room, when I simulated Sylvain's combat against the Death Knight, we had a guaranteed kill with Silverland's Swift Strikes. It was much more anticlimactic than I thought it would be, but at least we did it! Yay! With this, we get a crappy level 20 level up, so let me pull up the average stats for comparison. While our Sylvain's still doing really well in comparison, he's been getting real crappy level ups. If you compare his speed to the one he had at level 15, it's exactly the same. RNG has not been kind, but oh well, it's still workable. On to Chapter 7, now that Sylvain's finally level 20, he can get his warrior certification. Here we come, Vantage Wrath Strats! With Chapter 7, we get access to Sylvain's and Ingrid's Paralogues, so let's go through Sylvain's first. It'll be the simplest since the only other forced deployment other than Sylvain himself is Byleth. For Sylvain's Paralogue, you get rewards based on how many thieves you can prevent from escaping. But again, with only Sylvain to do all the work, that's a hopeless endeavor. I just had Sylvain target the thief with the Speedwing, but any of the other thieves Sylvain was able to get was just a bonus. Either way, there's not much to say here. All the enemies are really simple to deal with. There were just a few hiccups with aggroing some enemies and then they ended up going after Byleth, so I had to use some Divine Pulses to undo that. Sylvain gets mad that we let so many thieves get away, but well, maybe you should have tried harder to kill them all. It's your mission anyway. Maybe if you trained more instead of flirting more, you wouldn't be crying about all the thieves you let get away. Anyway, the map just took some time because it's a route the enemy map, but the enemies themselves weren't a problem. Anyway, good job Sylvain, you cleared your own Paralogue all on your own. I'm sure your dad's proud. Also, he masters Warrior and unlocks Wrath. Vantage Wrath Strats incoming! We get his Hero's Relic as a reward for clearing the Paralogue, yay! But to be honest, I don't end up using his relic much for the rest of the run. Relics are hard to repair since the smithing materials for them are so limited, and Sylvain was cheesing everything with Swift Strikes anyway, so the Lance of Ruin mostly sat collecting dust in the convoy. Then we get into Ingrid's Paralogue, which I thought was going to be a real pain. Ingrid's Paralogue is shared with Dorothea, so having to deal with that forced deployment was a little daunting. I'll preface this by saying that clearing this map took more than 40 minutes of real time, the footage being sped up for your convenience and my sanity. There's a ton of reinforcements throughout the map. First, there's the continuous thieves coming from the top right, at least until you can kill the priest on the defensive tile, but sadly, reinforcements don't stop there. The objective of the map is to either rout the enemy, not a great option for a solo run, or move Ingrid to the escape tiles in the bottom right of the map. The second option is of course the preferable one, but in a solo run where only Sylvain can enter combat, that's easier said than done. The first order of business is to kill that priest on the top right to stop the continuous stream of thieves every turn, but it's a little frustrating because I aggroed some enemies that would then go after Dorothea, so I'd have to keep going back and forth to kill them instead of just going on a straight path to the priest. Eventually, I reached the priest. No more annoying thieves every turn, yay! But this map is so generous with its enemy reinforcements. There are certain thresholds in your positioning on the map that spawns more of them. The specific triggers aren't outlined in any guide I was able to find, but it seems that once you pass the vertical half of the map with any unit, it causes reinforcements to come in from where we start the map. Then there are reinforcements when you get close to the escape point, so there's more to clean up there too before you can safely get Ingrid there. Other than the super annoying reinforcements, the map was straightforward. I just had to watch Dorothea's positioning, since keeping flying units like my Byleth and Ingrid safe was really easy thanks to all the lava tiles that the enemies couldn't reach. After we finally finish the map, we get Ingrid's relic, which much like Sylvain's is just going to gather dust in the convoy, but we cleared the Paralogue. Whee! And that's all we have for this episode. Sorry you couldn't get to the Chapter 7-month battle. There was just so much footage to get through with Sylvain and particularly Ingrid's Paralogue, so we'll have to cut this part short here. As always, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon to get notified when the next part is out. Bye for now!